Hey guys, I'm Adam Stern. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a competitive freediver. I've dove over 100 meters in one breath, and I'm here today to teach you how to Frenzel Equalize and why Frenzel Equalisation is important for freediving. If you are interested in freediving and improving your own freediving, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I'll be regularly posting tutorials and videos aimed at improving your own diving. So what is Frenzel Equalisation? Well, in freediving there are two main forms of equalization. There is Valsalva equalization and there is Frenzel equalization. Valsalva is when you exhale against pinched nostrils, or when you simply contract your abdominals and you push the air from your lungs up into your nasal cavity and then use it to equalize your middle ear. Frenzel equalization is when you contract the tongue and the throat to push the air that's in your mouth into your nasal cavity and therefore equalize the middle ear. In both cases, we are pinching the nostrils. I know that one of the misconceptions with Frenzel is people think it's where you're able to equalize without pinching the nostrils, but actually all these forms of equalization are done against pinched nostrils. There are many problems with Valsalva equalization, but I suppose the main problem is that we use our respiratory muscles and our abdominal muscles to contract and then push the air that's in our lungs up into our ears. Now the issue with that is when we're freediving, our lung volume and the gas inside our lungs is constantly shrinking. And so usually after about 15 meters or so, sometimes even 10 meters, it becomes very hard to do a Valsalva equalization because pretty simply the gas in your lungs has shrunk too much. Frenzel is a much more effective and gentler way to equalize your ears, and for the most part, give or take some different factors, a strong Frenzel equalization will be able to take you down to around 40, even 50 odd meters or so. During this video, I'll also be taking you guys through many different exercises, so you're probably going to need to pause it while you practice these exercises before we continue on with the video. If you go through without pausing it, it may get a little bit rushed, and you probably won't have time to develop the equalization skills. Because keep in mind that equalization is a skill. The more you practice it, the better you get. Now there's a very simple way to work out if you are doing Valsalva or Frenzel, keeping in mind that Frenzel in the long run is the equalization that we want to be doing. What you do is you just place your hand in your upper abdominals, just in between where your ribs meet, your solar plexus, and you equalize. Just a normal, natural equalization, right? Now, if you felt your abdominal muscles contract or tense up, then most likely you are doing some form of a Valsalva equalization. If you didn't feel anything at all, then most likely you're already doing Frenzel. So, if you were doing Valsalva, keep watching the video because we're going to step by step teach you how to do Frenzel. And if you were doing Frenzel, keep watching because I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways in which you can get more coordination and make that equalization stronger. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce you to two new parts of the anatomy. The first one is the vocal fold, or the glottis as it gets called as well. The vocal fold are the muscles around your vocal cords, and they are what separate your oral cavity from your thoracic cavity, or your mouth from your lungs, right? So what I want you to do now is to take in a deep breath, open your mouth wide, and stick your tongue out as far as it will go, just like this. So you may have noticed that you didn't exhale. That's because your vocal fold was closed. With your mouth open and your tongue stuck out as far as it will go, there's nothing left except your vocal fold to stop the flow of air from escaping your lungs. It's actually something that I've never had to teach anyone how to do. Almost everyone can intuitively open and close their vocal fold. But I suppose what we want to be able to do is have a little bit more control over it, or a little bit more awareness about this part of the body. What I want you to do is take in a deep breath, open the mouth wide, stick the tongue out as far as it will go, and you're going to open and then close the vocal fold. Open, close, open, close, open, close, letting out a little bit of air every time we open it. It's going to sound or look like this. All I'm doing is I'm exhaling by opening up my vocal fold, and then I stop the flow of air by closing my vocal fold. And you'll probably find that you can do this with relative ease without me having to explain too much about this to you. These exercises may feel a little bit strange, but bear with me, they're all for a very specific reason, okay? So the next thing that we want to build a stronger awareness of is the soft palate. The soft palate is what separates your oral cavity from your nasal cavity. It's that thing that wiggles at the back of your mouth when you snore. If you push your tongue to the roof of your mouth and then run it back, you'll notice that the hard area of bone, your hard palate, very quickly becomes a soft area, which is your soft palate. Feel that at the back of your mouth, on the roof of the mouth there? Now before we go on, I just wanted to show you this image here and explain it. This is a cross section of the oral and nasal cavity. So basically when I'm talking about the vocal fold, it's this little area that I've got down here in red, which is where you can block off the air from escaping. And when we talk about the soft palate, it's actually this blue area right here, right? So to equalize your ears, all you actually are doing is putting enough pressure into the nasal cavity to push part the eustachian tubes, which are right here where this red dot is, and push air into the middle ear. So this soft palate here is what separates your oral cavity from your nasal cavity, and the vocal fold is what separates your oral cavity from your thoracic cavity or your lungs, which is not in this picture. The soft palate can move around in the mouth. When you are breathing in and out of your nose, what actually happens is the soft palate closes against the back of the tongue in order to direct the air out of your nasal cavity. When you're breathing with your mouth, the soft palate sits in a more or less neutral position, not blocking off the nasal cavity, not blocking off the oral cavity, but because the opening to the oral cavity is bigger, the air will be directed out of your mouth. That's the only thing that's actually changing in your body when you switch from breathing out of your nose to breathing out of your mouth. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a few breaths where we keep the mouth open the entire time. You're going to inhale through the mouth, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Keep doing this, and what you're looking for is that feeling of where your soft palate clicks, or because it's wet, right? Clicks off the back of your tongue as you switch from the inhale in from the nose to the exhale from the mouth. Because when you're inhaling and exhaling through the nose, the soft palate will be closed against the back of the tongue, right? Getting pushed towards the back of the tongue. So pay attention to the feeling of the soft palate in the back of your mouth. And then when we've got that, we're going to do the exact same thing, but the other way around. Going to inhale through the mouth, exhale through the nose. We're trying to build up a sense of awareness for the position of that soft palate. When we're doing a Valsalva equalization, our vocal fold must be open because we're pushing the air that's in our lungs up into our nasal cavity and therefore into our middle ear. Our vocal fold is open and our soft palate is in an open or neutral position, just like it is in this picture. When we are doing Frenzel Equalisation, our vocal fold must be closed. If our vocal fold is open and we go to push with our tongue and with our throat here, the air will just simply escape back down into our lungs, especially because we're descending upside down. So the air naturally always wants to escape to the area of lesser pressure, which is the area closest to the surface. So when we're doing Frenzel, the vocal fold is open. So when we are doing Frenzel, the vocal fold is closed and the soft palate is in an open or a neutral position so that we can push the air into our nasal cavity. So just to recap and to clarify, for both Valsalva and Frenzel, all we're actually doing is creating enough pressure in the nasal cavity to push apart those tubes and equalize the middle ear. This is why doing equalization exercises is often best in the mirror. because you can see the small things that are going on in your mouth and your throat and in your nasal cavity on your nose. So you'll always be able to tell when someone is creating enough pressure in the nasal cavity to equalize, because you'll see their nostrils flare out like this. Now I have a big nose, so my nostrils flare a lot. So how do we do this whole Frenzel equalization thing? So with our vocal fold closed and our soft palate in a neutral position, we create a seal with our tongue, usually with the front of our tongue, up against the roof of the mouth. We create a seal with one part of the tongue, and with the back of the tongue, we contract and push upward, and that pressurizes the air in our mouth. If you don't create a seal with the front of the tongue, the air will simply escape out of the front of your mouth, right? Like if we don't close our vocal fold, the air will escape back down into our lungs. We're trying to contain the air in the pocket of our mouths while we use our tongue to push it into our nasal cavity. So there are three main positions that we can place our tongue in to create a proper seal. The first one is the T position. It's called the T position because it's where your tongue goes to make the sound of the letter T. T, right? So this is the front of the tongue up against the front of the roof of the mouth. You build up pressure behind that tongue position, and then when you release the tongue position, you make the sound T. This is how we speak. So, to make sure that you are correctly T equalizing, or have your tongue in the T position, what you're going to do is you're going to pinch your nose, put your tongue in the T position, equalize against it, and when you release your tongue, you should make the T sound. When you release your tongue, you'll notice that your nostrils also will sink back down to their normal position, or they won't be flared up anymore. That's because obviously when you release the pressure behind that T lock or the T seal, you will lose the pressure that you built up in your nasal cavity. This is not how we actually equalize. This is just another step-by-step process to getting more precision, more control, or learning how to do this in the first place. I pinch my nose, I equalize against it, as I release the position of my tongue, I make the sound of a T, and I lose the pressure in my nasal cavity. It's the same for the letter K, for example, which is the next Frenzel position. T, K, and H. The K Frenzel, you place your tongue in the position which you'd make the letter or the sound K, which is usually, everyone does this always slightly differently, but we're more or less talking about the middle of the tongue making contact with the middle of the roof of the mouth. Once again, you equalize. When you release the tongue position, you should make the sound K. Now the last position is called the H position. It's called the H position because it's where the tongue goes in languages like German, Dutch, Arabic, the guttural languages, or the languages with guttural sounds. It's where the tongue goes to make those h sounds. Now what that is the back of the tongue making contact with the soft palate, or like the back of the roof of the mouth. And the way to know for certain that you're doing this one is that you'll be able to Frenzel equalize with the tongue stuck out as far as it will go, like this. You see the sound that I make when I release it? That's that h sound, right? I won't get too close to the camera for that one for you. That one's for you. These are our three different Frenzel locks or seals. You don't have to be an expert with all of them. I think at this point in time it's probably best to just choose one, the one that you are most comfortable with or that you found the most natural, and get as coordinated as possible with that Frenzel equalization. So that's the way that we create a seal against the roof of our mouth. But what are we actually doing with the back of our tongue? Well, we're contracting it or raising it. What you're going to see now, I'm going to show you how I Frenzel equalize, and you're going to see the muscles, or you're going to see the bottom of my throat lift up against what is effectively the back of the roof of my mouth. If you're not able to do this intuitively, lifting up the back of the tongue, there are two exercises that we're going to do now to give you a little bit more control over that, or to teach you how to do it in the first place. So, you'll find that when you actually stick your tongue out as far as it will go, the back of the tongue will rise with it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stick the tongue out as far as it will go, bring it back in, out, in, out, in. And then you're going to close your mouth and close your teeth together, and you're going to push your tongue up in the exact same way so that the front and the center of the tongue will bunch up like this against your teeth. And that will cause the back of the tongue to rise up and pressurize the air in your mouth. Just like this. Press that tongue right up against the teeth. Let it bunch up against it. So give that one a go. And then if it's working, fantastic. If it's not working, we'll move on to the next exercise. Notice how when you swallow, your throat will rise up a little bit. Or if you're a man, you'll notice that your Adam's apple will go up a little bit. So that's a very similar movement, a little bit weaker, but there's a similar movement to what we're doing when we're frenzeling. So what I'd like you to do now is pinch the nose and just swallow a few times. Swallow a few times, do it 3, 4, or 5 times, okay? Now, once you've done that, we're going to pinch the nose and swallow. But before we actually get to that swallowing point, you know, there's a point where you actually, like once you start to swallow, you can't stop it. But there's a point before you're actually swallowing where you're just lifting up the throat. And what I would like you to do is try to stop at the top of that swallowing mechanism, that swallowing movement, and then see if you can press or tense harder with the tongue or with the throat itself, and see if you can actually increase the strength of that movement and therefore pressurize the air in your mouth so you can equalize your ears. So first we're just swallowing. You may notice you get small equalizations when you're actually just swallowing. Keeping in mind this doesn't really work when you're actually diving down. It needs to be stronger. Swallowing, wriggling your jaw around, all these other little techniques and tricks, they don't work at all in freediving, so we're just going to abandon them completely. So we're going to pinch the nose, swallow, and just see if in that swallow you can push that throat up, push the tongue forward, or push the tongue back against the roof of the mouth. And it's a very similar movement to what we're doing when we're actually frenzeling. So see if that one worked. The thing is with learning how to frenzel is that in life we develop our mouth and tongue habits through speech and through eating. And so our equalization habits will be influenced by our speaking and our eating habits. Some people have speaking and eating habits that are very conducive to equalizing and they can do it naturally. Some people do not have conducive eating and speaking habits. And so then you need to relearn or retrain the movements of your mouth. And it can be a difficult thing. And so with this kind of stuff, all we really need is practice. Practice, 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 and perhaps a bunch of different exercises. In this video, I'm only really going to have time to offer you those 2 exercises. But if those are not working, put it down in the comments and we can have a chat about some other things that you can do just on your own. Now, before we go on, just a very quick recap. When we are Frenzel equalizing, the vocal fold is closed. The soft palate is in a neutral position. The front of the tongue is creating a seal, or the middle of the tongue, or the back of the tongue. Some part of the tongue is creating a seal with the roof of the mouth, the hard palate or the soft palate, while the back of the tongue is pressing up and back or contracting to pressurize the air in our mouth. Those are our 4 variables, right? That's what's going on when we're frenzeling. Now, to make absolutely certain that you are doing this correctly, if so far you've been able to do all these exercises, if you haven't been able to do the exercises, I recommend that you simply go back, watch the video again, pause when we need to be doing different exercises, and go over it again and again and again until you get a feel for it. This is just learning how to coordinate and isolate muscle movements. So, if this is all good so far, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do Frenzel Equalisation with the stomach sucked in. It's also called a stomach vacuum, if you've heard that term before. Before I proceed, a word of warning, I have a very hairy stomach and chest. Now, when I say sucking in the stomach, what I actually mean is this. I exhale gently, gentle passive exhale, and then I suck the stomach up and back, right? This is a stomach vacuum. The reason why we're doing this is because the only way that you're able to keep the stomach sucked in like that is for the vocal fold to be closed, completely closed. So when you are keeping the stomach sucked in like that and equalizing, we know for certain that you're using the air in your mouth to equalize and not the air in your lungs. Now we're going to exhale gently. This has to be very gentle. We don't have to do this exercise to excess. We're going to exhale gently, suck the stomach in, and then we're going to do a T, K, or a H equalization depending on what you feel is best. I'm going to show you a T, K, or a H just to give you more of an idea. With my stomach sucked in the entire time, I have no access to the air in my lungs. So I'm using the air in my mouth to do those equalizations. Now, if you're still struggling with Frenzel, that's completely normal. To do a Frenzel equalization requires some pretty complex coordination in the mouth. Some people pick it up in 1 day, 1 hour. Some people, it takes them a week or 2 to pick this up. But the important thing is that you just keep practicing these exercises. I promise you, having a good, strong Frenzel equalization will make a world of difference in your diving. Now, the exercises in this video are designed in a way that they build upon each other so that by the end, you'll be able to do a good, strong Frenzel equalization. So if your Frenzel is lacking in precision, or if you're still not able to do it, go back to the beginning, watch the video again, practice the exercises, and I promise you, you'll start to get a grip on it, or it'll start to get stronger, more coordinated. If you do have any questions, just write it in the comments below. I will take the time to answer all the questions that you guys put down, and also I'm going to use those questions because I'm going to make a troubleshooting video after this about, common things that go wrong or that are difficult with Frenzel equalization and how to get around those things. So I'll make a troubleshooting for Frenzel equalization video. So just make sure you put it down. If you're having any difficulties, let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you and I'll make a further video about that as well. I hope you found the video extremely helpful. If you did, please leave a like on the video. If you are interested in becoming better and improving your own freediving, subscribe to the channel because I will be regularly putting up tutorials about different aspects of freediving, different tips for training and things like that. Feel free to write any tutorials that you might like in the comments below. And if I get enough people asking for something, I'll definitely make a video about it. So thank you very much for watching.